everyone, and welcome to the Co-Living Code Show. I'm your host, Christine McDaniel, founder and CEO of Kindred, the first CLMS co-living management system and marketplace, where we are on a big mission to help expand the co-living industry through technology. This is the longest running weekly YouTube show and podcast on the topic of co-living since we launched back on July 2018. Everybody knows how passionate I am about co-living and technology, my two favorite subjects that I get to speak around the world on. And at Kindred, we create solutions to find and manage co-living properties all around the world, helping guests easily find the perfect place anywhere and operators able to manage any number of rooms with automation and ease. Our clients range from multinational co-living businesses with thousands of units to individually owned smaller communities. The common thread amongst Kindred users is a passion to live differently in our current world to optimize space, save on cost, and belong to community. So what does it take to make these changes happen? We launched this podcast to dig deeper. We interviewed experts, founders, industry leaders, CEOs, investors, developers, you name it. It's magical when you hear the origin stories of some of the largest co-living operators around the world. You learn their journey firsthand, the good and bad. These are the pioneers of this global movement. Our hope is that you leave these conversations with some new ideas and insights and a greater passion for the future of living. With that in mind, I welcome you to the Co-Living Code Show. Hello everybody, Christine here with another weekly episode of the Co-Living Code Show, where we bring on experts from around the world to talk about co-living. And today we actually have Dave with NomadX, Dave Williams. And we haven't really brought on anybody onto the show that is more on the platform side, the aggregators of co-living spaces. And, we have a few guests coming up in the next couple months that this is exactly what they do, and just kind of seeing their perspective of how they're using technology to facilitate using co-living spaces in the world. And so Dave has a technology background, and we'll talk about that today on the show. He has a base in Lisbon, Portugal. And NomadX is a lifestyle brand for digital nomads offering affordable midterm housing, a global community, and educational programs. And Dave is a pioneer in the digital marketing, advertising, and ad tech industries as a serial digital entrepreneur over the past 20 years. So he's experienced multiple exits in the early formative stages of the search engine marketing, social media, and ad tech industries. His latest focus is on the location-independent digital nomad movement, which we go into a lot of detail about that. And NomadX started with the desire to help others easily and affordably experience the slow travel digital nomad lifestyle, whether for a month or a lifetime in amazing locations throughout the world, with a start in Portugal and next moving to Bali in early 2020. Prior to founding NomadX in 2017, Dave Williams spent the years traveling the world, where he saw an opportunity to improve upon the ease of finding affordable midterm housing and immediate connection to the local community for slow traveling freelancers, location independent entrepreneurs, and remote employees. He also wanted to help global workers experience a new way to travel, live, and work throughout the world. This is when NomadX was born. So really excited to bring him on. Again, we go really deep into remote work, digital nomads, how that's shifting, which cities in the world they're most attracted to living in. And so please enjoy this next episode with Dave Williams, NomadX. Hello, everybody, and welcome to this week's episode of the Co-Living Code Show. My guest today is Dave Williams, founder of NomadX, and I've known Dave for a little while now. We've talked multiple times, and I can't wait to share his journey, his story of what he's done starting in Portugal. And we'll go deep into talking about, your main clientele, which is the digital nomads, remote workers. Dave himself has been nomading around the world for years. And where are you at right now? Are you in Lisbon right now?
Right now we're in Austria in a city called Innsbruck, which is like a beautiful little city and very close to a lot of snowboarding mountains. nearby. So within half an hour to an hour, we've got a lot of really nice mountains and awesome little Christmas markets here in the city, and some great hot wine, and just very festive here in
Oh,
Innsbruck.
love it. See, I love it. I love having people from around the world come on the show and talk about their travels and co-living. So let's start there, Dave. And again, thank you for coming on this week. Let's start with your journey. Right, what made you get into co-living?
It was interesting. My background's been in the digital marketing space. I've been an entrepreneur in the digital space for the last 20 years. I've sold a couple companies like yourself, Christine. And after I sold my last company, my wife and I, we went on some travels around the world for about a year. After the first year, we decided we just wanted to keep going with it. And during that period, we started building the ideas around businesses that we wanted to start. And so we were running into Digital Nomads, just traveling around the world. And we just saw there was a big pain point in terms of trying to find places to stay. And most of them were having to stay in Airbnbs, which are great, but they're very expensive and they're more short term in terms of the pricing. As we want to try and create a better solution for the nomads in terms of affordable housing, midterm rentals. So everything we do is midterm, not short term. So that means a minimum 1 to 6 months. On average, people stay with us typically for around 3 months at a time. And my wife and I, we had no intention actually of starting the company initially. We moved to Portugal because we loved Portugal as part of our travels, and we wanted to become a resident of the EU. So that was our real motivation. And we moved to a really nice little surfing beach in the northwestern Algarve of Portugal. And when we arrived, we just realized there's a lot going on in Portugal. Tons of stuff going on related to entrepreneurship, a lot of digital nomads. We went to the first web summit that took place there back in 2016, and we just got inspired, and we started NomadX with a soft launch in 2017 and started building the technology in 2018. So it's been a ride so far. we're just getting started though.
No, you're right. I love it because you said how many units total under management right now?
We've got about 1,100 listings on the platform at the current moment. So a little over 1,000 throughout Portugal. Most of the concentration is in Lisbon, with about half the listings there, about 150 up in Porto, and the rest are sprinkled throughout Portugal, mostly in the main surfing areas of like Ericeira and Peniche, which are really nice, down on the southern coast, and out on the islands of Azores and Madeira, which are basically halfway between the US and Portugal. So it's a great little spot. If you haven't checked it out.
Yes, no, and then let's talk about that because I definitely want to dive in deep to, platforms and, listings. So like you've essentially built, this network of 1,100 places to stay and they book it through your platform. Like NomadX, maybe explain it from that sense of like the community you guys are building through the platform.
Right. Yeah, it's we've taken an initial approach where we've created the platform right now is completely free. So the platform is free for hosts, it's free for guests. And we just started that way for our launch, just to make it very easy to add on hosts, frictionless for the guest perspective, and just get a feel for the market. So over the last year, we've been in a beta launch for the product. We're getting ready to launch payment features probably in the next 3 months or so, and adding a lot of other trust features and other things on the platform. But basically, yeah, we have on the platform, it's private apartments. It could even be private homes. So that's one of the things. We saw a lot of demand from the nomads where they wanted to have their own place. We started off with just bedrooms and co-living spaces, or get our bedrooms with local hosts. So that's kind of the core of the platform, and really where we see the platform going long term. But we love the idea of people, of nomads, when they come into Lisbon or come into Porto, being able to stay with a local host, get that local experience. We felt like that was really missing as Airbnb's evolved over the years. They've lost that kind of local touch. And then also setting up smaller co-living spaces. So I say in general, most of the co-living spaces are 5 bedrooms to 7 bedrooms in general. And then we'll also have some of the other co-living operators on the platform, although we haven't done much with that quite yet, as you guys are focused on. So we've been focused more kind of mom and pop style, kind of original Airbnb style model. So it's been a lot of fun.
And then, so do they, like, does NomadX do the direct communicate? Like, is NomadX the host directly? So if they need something, they reach out to you guys, or no, they're still in direct contact with the host of the residence?
Yeah, we're like a marketplace. So very similar to like an Airbnb or even like a booking.com, where we just are a platform. We connect the host with the guests. We provide the technology to enable that. So yeah, that's the real part of the platform. And then once the guest signs up with the host directly, then the host becomes their like local liaison. As a part of that, we want to really, part of our model is not just about the housing, but it's also about the community. So we have a community manager who oversees our community in Portugal, and as we expand, we'll be overseeing other markets. We hired a guy, Derek Smith. He actually ran the community in Chiang Mai for the last 3 years, and he wanted to move to Portugal, and we got very fortunate to sign him on board in the last few months. So that's been a lot of fun. So we really think it's a combination of affordable housing with a local community. And really what we try to do is we put on events ourselves, but we also try and take advantage of a lot of the events that are already taking place in Portugal. So we'll get the community together, bring them to events, put on big parties. During the summer, we have a big monthly party at the end of each month, where typically we have around 300 people show up to the event. And these are people that are staying at NomadX. It could be the hosts of NomadX. And then we also have like local digital professionals that are there too, that could also be hosts. So it turns out to be just an amazing kind of digital community party in Lisbon. I'd say it's the largest party of its type all throughout the summer. So just a lot of fun.
And Lisbon has seen some insane growth, like in the world, as far as this hub for nomads. Like you've probably seen it in the years you've been there, right?
Oh yeah, it's growing like crazy. There's a local group. It's a kind of a nonprofit organization called Lisbon Digital Nomads. I'd say they're the largest in Lisbon, and they put on events every single day. So when you go to Lisbon, there's always a conference going on, there's events going on, there's so much going on. So what we found is, yes, we want to put on events, and we'll put on events where we think we can put on amazing events that are better than anyone else in the city. But we also want to do is piggyback on what everyone else is already doing, but bringing our community to their events. So we're finding like a lot of support from the community, whether it's from co-living operators that want to partner up with us, or even companies like Selena, for example. They just launched their whole European business, starting off in Porto and Lisbon. So we're striking up really good partnerships with Selena. And that's part of our idea as we go forward, is actually to get really tight with the co-living operators, put parties together, partner with them, share their co-working spaces, send them guests ideally.
For sure. And then would they book essentially through you guys, or they book directly through Selena?
They would, well, right now they would book through Selena, for example, although Selena is not on the platform at the moment. We're in the process of striking up our partnership agreement for next year. But in the future, we hope to have that. We have some of the other operators on the platform, but what happens is you actually will just pay directly to the co-living operator. In the future, we'll see how that evolves. Maybe we'll be partnering with you guys to help us on that front. But yeah, there's just nuances that we're not equipped for at the current moment.
And Dave, that's why I wanted to bring you on, because, definitely there's a lot of aggregators and platforms, which you've seen kind of popping up. But then I think the disconnect is like, they're just a listing service. It's almost like, they're taking Craigslist, all the listings that we used to search through, they're making them, easier to go through, pretty, but you still book straight through like the actual platform. Like, I think that's what sets NomadX apart, is that you guys are active in the community and facilitating those relationships, right, between the guest and the host.
Yes, that's the idea. So having the host play an important role, where they're part of that part of our community. And then the social events are super important to us too. We feel like that really brings the community together. And so that could be something as simple as going out and playing a soccer game together, or going to a party together, or going surfing together, whatever it might be. But as part of our platform, you're not paying for that as part of it. So you're basically just paying for the room. And then as part of it, you're getting the community wrapped in around that. So we feel like that's like what really is going to set us apart. We also are starting to offer educational programs too. We recently acquired a company based in Bali, a company called Homeless and Happy. It was started by a guy, Ali, and his fiancee, Lisa. They were digital nomads, and they met while they were over in Vietnam. They started traveling the world together, and they settled into Bali for a bit to start their business, Homeless and Happy, which is basically an educational business for people that want to become digital nomads and people that want to expand their expertise around organic social media. They were teaching expert courses on this. I kept contacting Ali because I met him during one of the DNX conferences, and I wanted him to run our social media programs, but he says, I don't run programs, I just teach you how to do the programs. And after enough persistence over the year, I eventually had him come in and be an entrepreneur in residence with us during a month over the summer. During July, he came in. We had sold out presentations every week, and we just started building this relationship. And after that, he got so excited about the brand, he took on our social media work for us. And then I convinced him to join the company with his fiancée. So we just combined the companies about a month ago. So it's like we're getting started. We've got started in Portugal. Next up is Bali, and then expansion from there. So we just want to be able to prove the concept not only in Portugal but also in other markets. with Bali obviously being a top digital nomad destination.
Oh yeah, that's another one. Next to Lisbon is Bali for sure. And so when you guys turn on the revenue model, is it going to be the actual guests that pay or the hosts or both?
I mean, I think it'll be more of like a booking.com style model. So it's just everything's baked into one price. And then when we get paid by the guest, we get a split. One of the split goes to the host, and then a split comes to us as well.
Cool. No, that makes sense. And then, so it's funny, it's you and your wife kind of traveling around, you just said that, Ollie and his fiance. So I know you're an advocate too for like couples being nomadic, right? I don't think we see enough of those stories.
Yeah, it's amazing. We're actually running into a lot of people. So what we're finding is people are out traveling the world. They might be traveling with a significant other, or they meet a significant other while they're traveling, build a relationship. Maybe they're dating, or maybe they're engaged, or maybe they got married. We've gone through that whole process in our company. One of the couples just got engaged and they just got married, a Brazilian couple. This lady, Wendy, she runs all of the help desk on the platform, is helping us oversee a lot of the operations on the housing side. And so she just moved back to Portugal. She spent a few months in Brazil recently, and where she got married to our fiance, Wagner, he's also part of the team now. So we brought him in, and he's supporting Wendy. And then we have Ali and Lisa, and then my wife and I, Jen, she's the chief fun officer. We call her the CFO, but nothing to do with the finances.
Oh, that's
So
awesome.
yeah, it's like power couples. We're starting to see that in the nomad scene where some of these couples get together and you're working your business, but it's really nice to be able to work with someone, maybe not always being on top of each other, doing the same things, but
Yeah.
kind of sharing that experience together.
I love that. And knowing, I mean, you probably know the stats, the numbers off the top of your head. I know you wrote, and we're going to put it in the bio. You have the link for the TechCrunch article you recently wrote. Just the shift in remote workers and digital nomads. Like, what's the growth that you're seeing in the near future?
It's interesting. I feel like the digital nomad space is a little bit like the internet back in 96, 97. And I've been in the internet since then. So I saw
Yeah.
it in the early days. It was a lot of techie people want to be talking like no banner ads and everything. So now I'm seeing the same thing, the same sort of mentality in the digital nomad space where the digital nomads are traveling, they're minimalist, they have just a backpack with them. So I think the biggest challenge that I see is for a lot of the companies that are out there, even the Airbnbs, and maybe to some extent for some of the co-living operators, is we're dealing with such a minimalistic audience that they want to spend as little as possible. So what we're trying to do is offer that affordability to the digital nomads. And that's why we've started initially with a host and just provided an outlet for the host to list their properties and for the nomads to get it so affordably. So yeah, it's just like we just see the nomads as like a growing segment of the population. I think like right now it's kind of in the very, very early stages, but I think over the next like 1, 2, 3 years, I'd say 3 to 5 years, you're going to see massive growth. And not just within this early adopter stage, but we're going to start seeing like a huge balloon of people. Because I think what you're seeing is a lot of pent up demand. You have people that are working out of co-working spaces. They're working at home in their underwear, and they need some inspiration. They need to be around people like themselves, and they need to get motivated. They want to be in a different work environment. What a better way to do it than come to a market like Lisbon or come to a market like Bali or anywhere around the world where you can almost do like a geo arbitrage on the money that you're making and pay a fraction. It costs a fraction to live in one of these other markets and still keeping that income coming in from these top markets like the New York cities or Londons or Parises or wherever you are around the world, and bringing that to one of these other cities and really kind of using that as a launch pad for your career. And also even as a break where you're just getting started, people that have just gained some experience and they want to kind of break out and sort of test themselves. So we're seeing a lot of people out there experimenting with becoming a digital nomad, but it's still in the very, very early stages. That's one of the main reasons we're launching the educational programs. We feel like that's so important, is to help train people not only how to do this, but also in a way that's like, there's a lot of coaches out there and you never know who the real coaches are. So we're going to be having our own internal coaches as well as almost like master class coaches, but top digital nomads that are teaching you skills and tricks and tips of the trade so you can also become a nomad or just improve your overall nomading skills.
I love that. And no, Dave, you nailed it as far as the arbitrage, right? If you're getting this insane salary in San Francisco and they're allowing you to work anywhere in the world and you go down to Lisbon to live 3 months, what's the average monthly rent that they're paying?
I would say like for a single bedroom, if you have a bedroom staying with a local host, you can get that for around like, let's say 400 euros a month. I think for like a flat, like where you have your own, like with your own flat, like a 750, 800 euros, a 1-bedroom flat would be around, I think around 1,000, 1,100. A 2-bedroom might be around 1,200, 1,300. A 3-bedroom, 15 to 1,600, typically in those ranges. And that's in Lisbon. So as you start to move into Porto, or you move into some of the beach towns, like the surfing areas, you're probably looking at about half of that. So what we're trying to do is bringing people into Lisbon. We're really hoping that they do is start to discover Portugal beyond just the major cities and start venturing out into some of these really cool beach towns and really experiencing the real Portugal.
No, that's amazing. And I love your tagline. Like, and I told you, I think this a while back, the slow travel pads. Like,
That's
I
right.
love slow travel, which is 1 to 6 months, correct? So 30-day minimum.
Well, it could be up to, I'd say, minimum 30 days, up to like a year or even longer if you want to. But as you start to get into longer term leases, you're almost better off just signing a 2 to 5 year lease, for example. I think mostly who we're servicing is people are looking for an apartment for a year or less. So we're seeing a lot of expats that are moving into Portugal. They're looking for midterm leases. These could be digital people. Companies are moving their headquarters there. They're looking for short-term rentals so that as they transition into the Portugal market. And then obviously a lot of the nomads are coming in. Nomads are coming in, they're experiencing Portugal maybe for a month or so. They go to another destination. And what we're hearing is that Portugal is where the nomads come to die. Because after they've done their digital nomading, a lot of them are making Lisbon or other parts of Portugal their home. And that's basically what my wife and I did. So I can understand the interest in that.
No, and what do you think is driving that, out of curiosity?
I think just Portugal is such an amazing country. They just came out with a survey interviewing people. These are retirees. But it was the #1 retirement destination in the world, and it was #7 last year. But I think the cost of living is super favorable. The medical care is really good. The food is amazing. You're on the coast of Portugal. It's like being on the coast of California. Amazing surfing. Just really, really nice, genuine people. And they also speak English. So I think as you're traveling, a lot of people, they want to be in a country where they can actually communicate with the locals. And so that makes it really easy.
Nice. Okay, then that definitely makes sense. And then, so let's talk, because again, I do know your tech background, your marketing and advertising background in technology. So like, I know you've ran Facebook ads, like you were targeting, all the attendees of the recent Web Summit, 70,000 attendees. Maybe talk about how digital marketing kind of helps, especially the operators that are listening, if they're
Yeah,
using those tools yet.
yeah. I mean, everything we do is digital. So we really don't do any traditional marketing. Everything's online. And that's just been my background in my career since the beginning. It's this new tool. So we want to take advantage of it. I'm not a real estate person. So I'm not like, I've never really made much money in real estate. I've owned some homes. I've sold some homes. I've started most of my career in Atlanta, Georgia. I started a digital agency there called 360i, if you've heard of it. 360i is like an A-list agency in the US, probably top 10 in search marketing, a social agency, and really good performance agency. And they've done phenomenally well. I don't take much credit for their recent success because we sold it back in 2005. And then after that, we did a social media agency. So it's all about like, how do we leverage the capabilities of what's available out there? So yeah, just social media, a lot of Facebook, just actually getting ramped up on the Instagram, but mostly we just been using Facebook to launch the business. We're going to start doing more and more with Google, more and more with Instagram, getting more and more into LinkedIn. Obviously, there's a lot of opportunity there, and even experimenting with other platforms like TikTok and some of the things that are going on. If you listen to Gary Vee at all, we're kind of being influenced by him. But yeah, there's just so many opportunities. We're just trying to focus in. We're still a small business, so we're not trying to overdo it across all these different channels. But yeah, it's been a lot of fun. Yeah, we got a team. We probably have like 15 plus people in the company right now. Got a team. We just hired on a bunch of developers just to finish off the product. But we got a development team of about 7 people. 3 of those people are full time. 2 are on a couple of them are on contract. So yeah, it's just like we're growing the business. We just got the community manager just joined us. I mentioned Derek. We just merged with Homeless and Happy in Bali. So we have a lot of momentum at the moment. So it's exciting.
I love that. No, it's been fun to watch because I swear there was like, you maybe had 400, listings when we first talked. And now you're like,
Right.
oh no, we have 1,100 and we're growing. I'm like, whoa, that was fast. No,
That's our goal. We'll have about 1,000 listings at each market that we enter. So we don't want to get too much over that. But the idea is then as we head into this next year, we want to be able to monetize, maybe not all of them, but a good percentage of them. And a lot of these properties not all of them, but some of them might be listed on Airbnb as well. So it's interesting. We've done a price comparison looking at the listings that are on NomadX and also on Airbnb. We're seeing the price points are about 50% of what a typical Airbnb costs. So the savings are significant.
No, you're right. And so is there any, that's a good question. Do they still stay listed, or do you have any sort of exclusive, agreements that they like, can they still cross list on booking.com, Airbnb and NomadX, or no?
Yes, they can totally do that. I think what we're seeing is a lot of the Airbnb type companies or Booking.com companies. A lot of times they're getting such a high rental rate during the summer months. A lot of times they might default to like an Airbnb for July and August because that's so popular in Lisbon. But once they get out of those main touristy seasons, they're looking for more sustainable business. Coming through instead of coming through Airbnb for a couple nights, few nights, because a lot of people that come to Lisbon and they're there for a few days, they leave, so there's a lot of turnover. And I think that's what the hosts really like about what we're doing is the customers are staying on average. We just ran a report yesterday on average for 3 months. So the typical customer is coming for 3 months. I've seen people, looking for reservations for 9 months, for 12 months. A lot of the hosts, though, they don't want the long-term stays. They want people for 3 months, maybe up to 6 months, but generally they're not looking for someone to stay on the property for the whole year, for example.
Oh, they're not. They wouldn't
No,
want, how come?
I don't know. It's interesting. Yeah, we have a lot of people requesting for these longer term stays, and then the hosts are like, no, we don't want you there for that long. I think maybe they're using it themselves for part of the year. They might be living in another country. They come back to visit their family. So it might be something to do with that, or they just want to be able to rent it on like an Airbnb during June, July, and August to kind of get a lot more rental value out of it. But yeah, we're seeing for some of these properties, they're 2,500 to 3,000 for a month, whereas on NomadX, they might be 1,000 to 1,200, for
Oh,
example.
interesting. And then, yeah, because the per night is always going to be more, like, right, when you do it monthly. Like, you usually get a significant discount when you book like a month
Right.
minimum. Okay.
Yeah,
And
exactly. And that's comparing our prices against Airbnb with those discounts, the discounts that they've layered in on top. But still, the discounts don't get you to where you could
mhm.
be if you're doing a long-term rental or one of these midterm rentals. So it's kind of like we're in this middle zone, which is kind of fun to play around in because we're not short-term, we're not long-term. So we're in this new category. And we're seeing actually a lot of the operators are looking to take portions of their portfolio and allocate them towards more of a midterm rental. So we're seeing some of the larger companies that might have hundreds of properties, they might pull out a portfolio of property and put a platform for midterm rentals just to start experimenting with it. But we're seeing that as a big direction that the industry is going in. And so some of these guys are just starting to pick up on that, and we're a conduit for that as well. There's other companies out there. You might be familiar with companies like Spot Home or Uni Places. They're a couple of the big names. They're more housing platforms for either for students or pretty much for everyone. So yeah, we're starting to see more and more people come into this midterm category. And so it's kind of a fun place to be playing around in at the moment.
Yeah, I should bring the guys on from Spot Home because I've talked to some of their team in depth. So you guys are kind of playing in the same arena as Spot Home, or how are you different?
I would say Spot a Home is really pretty much for anyone. So it's like you go on their platform, you can rent a midterm rental. They've got listings, a lot of cities throughout the world. I think where they have the issues is they charge all of their fees in the first month, and the fees are pretty significant. So in terms of booking through our platform, we're a little bit more in the bootstrap scenario. So we're coming at it from a perspective where they've got 60 million. They got funded a year plus ago from Kleiner Perkins, as you may know.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
so
yeah.
we're coming at it. We got the Dave Williams funding. So we're not quite at that level yet, but ideally, that's kind of, we aspire to that maybe someday, but maybe not to that level. But yeah, we're just kind of taking more of a bootstrapped approach to it, entering new markets, getting a feel for the business. I think our model is going to be a lot better because we're providing a lot more transparency. Whereas on Spot a Home, you're going in, you have to look at a video. You don't really get a chance to go in and see the property. You got to book it online. And if you don't like it that day when you arrive, you can get out of the contract. But with our system, you can go and look at the properties. You can go visit with the host. You can communicate directly with the host. So we try and make it extremely transparent. We're also the company, we switched our corporate status from a standard corporation. We're considered a public benefit corporation. So that might be interesting to some of the people on your show, but we saw is that we don't only want to be a housing platform. We don't only want to generate revenue, but we also want to give back to the community. And so there's a new form of companies called public benefit corporations, not a nonprofit, but that's part of our mission as well. So yeah, we're just trying to do like a lot of good stuff. We're in the process of actually launching a seeders campaign. So instead of going to angels or VCs, we're going to go to the crowd to help complement the funding that we're putting in on our end. But we want the company to be owned by the employees. We want the company to be owned by the community. We really see that as the future. So if you look at us versus a Spot a Home versus Uni Places, these are VC funded companies. We're taking more of like an approach coming at it from a community perspective. We want our guests to have the opportunity to not only book with us, but actually have an ownership interest in the business if they're interested. And so it's like, it's almost like you're owning an asset. You may not own property, but you own an internet asset. And then you tell your friends about it, and the whole thing's kind of a self-fulfilling approach. So we're really excited about it. We're playing around with some of these new business models, and we think that's going to help differentiate us from some of these other guys.
No, I love that, Dave. And that's what's so fun about doing the show is that we bring on people that are bootstrapping or getting creative. Like, I mean, that's super creative. And Cedars, like I know some of the people there, and that's a great way to, like you said, give people the opportunity to own a piece of your company, especially if they're already clients, versus the heavy VC round of like a $40 million, cash injection. And only time will tell to see like how it all plays out. I'm actually really curious to see in like 5 years, what works best. And, so yeah, I think you're onto something for sure. And that's super cool. Yeah. And as a fellow bootstrapper too, I know how much fun that is. For sure. The, what other question was it asked? Oh, so it's similar to B, because I know in Europe, yeah, so it's like the B Corp, is that this similar? Because there's one, I don't know if it's essentially an agency, but because you guys filed it, how did you file it? Where it's not a nonprofit, but it's.
Yeah, it's called a public benefit corporation. There's something called a B Corp. What the B Corp is a certification of your public benefit corporation.
Okay.
So that's the step for us. After we get a little bit more traction, as we start generating more revenue, it's kind of a lengthy process you have to go through. And these are companies like Patagonia. There might only be, I think, like thousands of, in the kind of single digit thousands, maybe 10,000 certified public benefit corporations around the world. My brother, we have a family business based out of Delaware, which is called Inc. Now. And it's a family run incorporation business. So we help incorporate companies all around the world. So I got this idea for the public benefit corporation talking to my brother. So we switched the Inc. Now business over to a public benefit corporation. So that got my wheels turning. Like, this could be a really good thing for the digital nomads. I think it's like right up their alley. So
no, for sure. And that's stuff they care about. So that's super smart. I love that. So let me see.
The investors don't like it as much though, because I think the investors are kind of all for profit. So that's why we're kind of heading down the Cedars route.
Growth at all costs, you mean?
Yeah, exactly.
Just grow, and move things and break things and all that fun stuff. Okay. Yeah. Again, it will be interesting to see. I'm not saying there's a wrong way or right way right now, because again, I talk to everybody. But I think it will be interesting to see how it pans out and what types of companies are built, from this baseline. I think Zoku has their B Corp. I think that Zoku has their certification, if I'm not mistaken, in Amsterdam. But you're right. It's very few companies that have that. It is a process to get it for sure. And then, so let's talk about the economy. I have my thoughts on what will happen when the economy switches over on a downturn again, which eventually it will. But before I say my comments and thoughts, what do you think will happen to this sector?
I think the digital nomad sector is on a growth path. I mean, not all nomads are out there nomading for years on end. I mean, most people are out there for a few months, maybe up to a year. After a year, I think it kind of dwindles out quite a bit, but it is like an amazing lifetime experience. I think the world's becoming a much smaller place. So it's like you can pretty much, for all knowledge workers, you can really live and work from anywhere. So that's what we're really trying to promote. Is really our mission is to kind of revolutionize the way people live, work, and travel the world. So that's like, we just think the world's becoming a much smaller place. It's much easier to get around. It's like, this is the future. So we're definitely on it. I think when the economy kind of starts, there's definitely going to be an economic downturn. I think with that, though, you're definitely going to see a boost in companies like the co-living operators where they're offering a lower cost solution. I think people are very lonely in general. A lot of the nomads, that's one of their biggest complaints. I think for the younger generations coming through, spending so much time on their screens, it's important to actually be living and being around other people. Even if you're not living with other people, to have the option to go out for a dinner, option to go out to go surfing, or just to meet up with someone over drinks or whatever it might be. That's what people are looking for. So, bringing the community back into the living is really what we're trying to do. And, it's everyone has their own needs. So like I said, initially, we thought it was all going to be about co-living, and then we saw a lot of demand around private apartments. So I say private apartments are the largest segment on our platform at the moment. I'd say at least like half of the properties or more are private apartments. And then we have single bedrooms as a second biggest category, staying with hosts. And then the third is actually co-living spaces. But we'd expect the co-living to start growing pretty significantly. I know you live at your co-living space. And also for me, I also live at our co-living space when I'm in Lisbon. So we've got a small five bedroom space. And when I'm in town, that's where I stay, and I get to hang out with the nomads and really get to experience the lifestyle. So that's been a lot of fun too.
Oh, that's super cool. So it's you and your wife will co-live, and then so there's like 5 people total in the house?
Yes, that's right. So it's like an
Okay.
apartment. It's about like 15 minutes right outside of the main city center, but it's easy to get there on the metro. It's just a beautiful little neighborhood, very local prices. So I think what a lot of people are finding is they stay at the Airbnbs, and that's nice for a week or so, but you're in all these high expensive touristic areas. Whereas if you can get out a little bit outside of the main city center and the touristic zones, you can get much better prices. You get a much more cultural experience. And so that's what we're all about. We still have apartments in the main city centers because that's what a lot of people do want that too. But I think as they're staying in the city longer and longer, they actually want to move out into these more unique and sort of interesting neighborhoods throughout the city. So that's part of our goal with the business, is like to pull people out of these touristic traps.
And no, and that's no, it's exciting to hear. So you and your wife co-live, and are the other people in the house single, or are they also married, or?
We have one couple. They're from France, and they're acting as the host in the property. So we offer them a discount for their room, and they just take on the management of the property. And yeah, I mean, we have let's see, right now we had a couple people that just left. So there were 2 women that just left, and we're looking, actually right now, if anyone's listening, we're looking
There
for,
we go.
we got 2 rooms available. But yeah, January, February, March are slower months in Lisbon. So it's a little bit more chill. Once it hits May, June, July, then it's game on for the nomads in Lisbon. A lot of them are over in Chiang Mai right now, or in Bali, or in other places around the world. So
Yeah, no. And I was saying, because you're going to jump over to Thailand soon, right?
yeah, that's right. My wife and I, we're gonna head to Thailand. We're actually heading to Bali first. Freedom X Fest is going on at the beginning of April. So we're going to go over there, hopefully strike up some sort of partnership or sponsorship. So we feel like there's really good synergies. We're friends with the founders. They're super nice. This lady Estella and it's another power couple, and her fiance John, who's super nice. So we kind of get along well with them. Yeah, and then after that, we're going to go to Chiang Mai and spend some time in Bangkok, and then down in Phuket, and then head back to Lisbon for the summer.
Yes, in Chiang Mai. It's my favorite city in the world. I love that place.
I've
Oh my
never
gosh.
been before, so I feel like I have to go there. It's like the New York City for nomads.
And it's grown like insanely fast. Like I was there in 2007 the first time, and I think 2015 the second. And I was like, whoa, it's like a different city. You'll love it. It's another main digital nomad hub for sure. So what are your guys' future expansion plans? So Bali is next, and then which market will you go after that?
Well, I think if you look at the Nomad list, that's like a good hit list for us. We want to be in the top 20 digital nomad markets around the world. Probably initially it'll be Bali, hopefully Thailand. After that, places like Budapest and Prague. Stella has a couple places in Budapest, so she's got some good local knowledge. So I might try and work out some arrangement with her. But yeah, Spain is obviously a big opportunity for us because it's right there, and a lot of the nomads love Spain. So it's kind of like a game of Risk. We're going to take over the Iberian Peninsula first, and then we'll grow from there. We're not really looking at the U.S. too much. We're going to start, I think, in a lot of these secondary markets, and we know there's some companies already doing stuff like this in the U.S. So we're focusing a lot more on, ideally places like South America, Central America, Europe and Asia are hot markets for us. So we'll see. But basically, yeah, we're like I say, we're NomadX, but we're like SpaceX, but for nomads.
I love that. No, that's amazing. And and again, it's just it's only all the numbers like point in that direction as far as people being more remote. So if you can live anywhere in the world, and to the point of the economy, and I've probably said it before on the show, I'm sure, but when there's a downturn, and this happened in '08. I had friends here in Southern California that got a massive severance check. I had a few massive severance checks, got laid off, and then they took off to Thailand, and they lived there for like 3 or 6 months, because again, the cost of living was so much less. So I actually think Bali, Chiang Mai, I think these cities, Lisbon, I think people are just going to like flock. And then co-living in major cities will expand because, people might not want to be able to pay $3,000 for studio anymore in California. They'll share space and
Yeah.
give up a little privacy.
Yeah, the insurance is less expensive too. Like I live over in Portugal. I think my wife and I pay like $2,000 for the year for health insurance. The insurance is great, and the meds are a lot less expensive than they are in the U.S. So it's like I don't know. We really enjoy it. I mean, sometimes you do need to speak Portuguese, which makes it a little bit challenging. So I'm very early in my Portuguese. So I'm just like typical American, I guess. But I've just been traveling so much. It's just I haven't had the time, and I've just been so focused on the business. So,
Yeah, because
but
you've
yeah,
been traveling. How many years have you been nomadic?
really since like 2013 is when we got started. So it's been a
And how long
while.
have you and your wife been together?
We've been together. We met in 2002. We've been married since 2003. So yeah, almost like
See,
17 years.
that's the secret. Just travel the world together, right?
But my wife's really the explorer. I'm more like I call myself. I'm like her Sherpa. I just make sure she gets there and back.
Oh, that's awesome. I love that.
She's the
That's great.
adventurer one. So I'm just like she's the one that's kind of setting the path forward. So that's been a lot of fun.
Cool. And then as far as like a global community, like, you know, again, and me and you have probably talked before on just how fragmented, like it's just still fragmented. That's why I'm like, oh, let's do a directory of just all the listings. So at least they're in one spot. Like, how do you see it becoming less fragmented around the world in different markets?
Like the in terms of the fragmentation around the co-living category.
Co-living category. Yeah. In general.
Yeah, I mean, like I think, like I mean, I've seen some of the stuff that you've put out. I think obviously you have the big players and you have some of the more mom and pop style things going on. So I think obviously some of these big players are going to be hugely successful and they're going to build lots of units. I think you're also going to see some of the smaller companies emerge. You know, maybe it's companies like Outsite, for example, or whether it's like the Selenas or whoever it is. You know, these guys that are making major moves, or it could even be smaller players that just set up an amazing business. They open up in multiple locations and they get acquired. So I think you're going to see some acquisitions occurring with some of the smaller operators to consolidate, create business opportunities for them. I think if you start doing this stuff at scale, there's definitely efficiencies from that perspective. So yeah, I mean, who knows where the future is going? But I think yeah, the cities are becoming more and more crowded. So as the cities become more and more crowded, there's only so much room for people to stay. The prices go way up. So the co-living starts becoming more attractive. You know, and then the nomading also is super attractive because it's like even if you just do it for a month, you know, I always tell people like you're staying in your apartment, you're working out of a co-work space, just book a plane ticket, come to Lisbon, spend a month with us. You have an amazing experience, and that's going to be the start of an amazing adventure. You just got to do it, basically.
I love that. Well, perfect, Dave. So that leads perfectly to my next question, my last question, which is if we were, I know we've talked a few years out, let's talk 10 years out. Like if we fast forward 10 years, 2030, oh my gosh, where do you see this industry?
That's a good question. I think like where everyone's heading into the city right now, I think what you're going to see is people moving out of the city. So that's going to be the next big trend. Because basically, why are people going to be dealing with commutes or paying expensive prices to live in the cities? So I think you're going to see a big migration out of the cities into places that are a lot more affordable, offer a lot more benefits in terms of like if you like hiking or like what we're doing, like snowboarding, just getting out there and really experiencing life without having to deal with the hassle of the big city. I mean, I've worked in New York City as well, and I love New York City. I think it's amazing, and it's a great place to make a living. You can make a lot of money. It's like it's very competitive and everything, but there's only so much time that you can do that. It wears you out. So you just to re-energize yourself, go out and experiment, go travel the world, and find your new home. You know, it's like that's my wife and I did. But I think that's the trend: is people are going to get out, experience this nomading lifestyle, and they're going to fall in love with Bali. They're going to fall in love with Chiang Mai. They're going to fall in love with who knows where, and buy a house there and set that up as their home base and use that as a home base for traveling. And that's basically what my wife and I are doing over in Europe. We bought a house in Portugal, and through purchasing the house, we get an EU residency. And we only have to spend 2 weeks out of the year in Portugal. So it creates this amazing opportunity for us to travel. We're on the track to get citizenship. And all of a sudden, my wife has a Peruvian citizenship and American citizenship, and now we'll have a Portugal citizenship hopefully pretty soon.
Oh, that is amazing. Do you guys ever plan on coming back to the States or not really?
Coming back to come visit, but we don't have any immediate plans. We're waiting for the next election, I guess.
Oh yeah, I think you're not the only one. You're probably not the only one for sure. No, and it's funny. And I love Europe. And so I'm always so torn. I'm like, oh, if I could just live on two continents at the same time. I just, right now I go back and forth because I just, for different reasons, I love both. But
It's kind of
no.
a seasonal lifestyle. You know, we love Portugal in the summer. We love snowboarding in the winter. So, I mean, some people are just traveling, just following the warm weather, basically. That's what we see a lot of. But we
Mhm.
like snowboarding, so we like to head into the cold winters.
Okay.
But
Yeah.
yeah, there's
Yeah.
amazing places to go to. I mean, places like Japan, I think is incredible. We've spent a
Mhm.
bunch of time there, and then northern island of Japan and Hokkaido and snowboarded up there. I mean, I think places like that are just incredible. So yeah, I think you're going to see people just moving around a lot more. I think global citizenship is something of the future, where having more flexibility in terms of where you live, where you work, all these visa issues and everything else that people are dealing with. It's very primitive at this stage. I think in 2030, you're going to see some big changes around that. You're already seeing some countries implementing programs. Portugal's getting very aggressive as well. So some of these smaller countries are going to start being very competitive with some of these larger nations.
No, and it's so funny. My co-founders, we always talk about global residency, like since day one of Kindred. Like I'm a massive believer, and if there's a way to become a global resident, and what would that look like, and how would governments? I mean, yeah, it's definitely some infrastructure they're gonna have to build out.
Right.
But you're just like you said. Yeah, it's like the world's becoming smaller. So how do we facilitate jumping around and getting around the like 90-day, travel visas and all this, how do we streamline that? And you're exactly right. I think certain regions are getting very competitive, and being more flexible in that sense.
Yeah, I mean, I think English is becoming much more well-spoken throughout the world. So anywhere you go, it's fairly easy to get around in most countries. So I think that's going to become even more of a trend. 2030, you can see a lot more people speaking English around the world, that being like a global language that people use not only for business, but for socializing. When people get together, typically they're using English to communicate when they're coming from different countries around the world. So yeah, it's really cool. We're super excited for it.
Yay. Well, I'm sure YouTube is not going anywhere. So in 2030, we can watch this again and see if we were close.
Okay. Yeah.
Awesome, Dave. Yeah. Well, thank you so much.
This stuff. I predicted Google in the early days, and then I predicted Facebook. So
did you really?
Well, we started our first business in 1998 before Google was around, in the search business. And the second one, we got into Facebook back in 2008, one of the first partners. So this is the next one for me. I'm good at looking forward. I'm not so good at the operational details, and that's what I've got Ollie for.
Yeah, visionaries usually aren't. That's good. Yeah. So just keep forecasting where the future is going. And I believe it wholeheartedly. And, again, it was funny. At least I'm not hearing co-living as a fad anymore. At least I'm not hearing that anymore. but I
heard a lot of people think that. It's actually a good thing, I would say. If people are saying it's a fad, I love that. If people are saying like, if people are ignoring our category, that's awesome. I love that. Back in the early days, people thought, well, Facebook, the ads don't work on Facebook. That's what everyone thought in 2008. Yeah. I love that. You know what I mean? So it's like, these ads work. Everyone don't work. They're distracted in these other areas. So I think the same with co-living. People are caught up in old ways of doing things. This is the future. So people like yourself, this younger generation, these older guys, they need you. It's like they're trying to figure this stuff out. They're wearing around their ties, and they got enough going on today. They need us younger. They need not me anymore. I'm not as young as I used to be, but the younger
You still
folks.
Think age is just a number. You still think like you still see the future very easily with the crystal ball, which is great. Right. And just see where the trends are. Yeah. And you just have to see a little bit, a few years out of like but that's the sad thing is real estate takes like 3 to 4 years, 5 years to build from ground up. So it's like, by the time the product is built, then it's like, oh, this doesn't work for the way people are living.
Right. Yeah. It's difficult, but I think, hopefully they'll speed up the construction time, start building more living spaces.
No, and I think we'll see that, which is exciting. And one last question I forgot to ask too is because have you used influencers yet with social media?
That's a good question. We actually are about to start doing that. What we've done in the past is we've done this entrepreneur in residence program. So if there's any entrepreneurs out there that are traveling the world, we'll bring them in, host them at one of our properties for free. We'll promote them, they promote us, and we do some events and stuff. So it's really, really cool. We've done that. That's worked well. The biggest success we had, other than that, we haven't really run any influencer campaigns. But the lady that works with me in our office, Wendy, who I told you about from Brazil, she writes about spirituality on Instagram, and she gets about 1,000 new followers every day. She's got over 500,000 followers at the moment. And so she gave us a friendly mention. This was like a month ago, and it was our largest day ever. We did over 100,000 booking requests in one day, just from one post on Instagram. It was crazy. So obviously I was like, what happened that day? How did we get so many booking requests coming through? And Wendy was like, oh, I posted something about NomadX to my group in Instagram. I was like, well, we need any more of that. So if we got to hit our numbers, we just have her submit a post for us.
That is amazing. Wait, was it 100,000 euros in like rent?
This was a gross booking requests. So not actually in conversions yet. Yeah, but gross booking requests across the platform. So that's been our largest day ever so far. So we're we're still trying to beat that.
That is amazing. Okay, so everybody listening, so again, marketing, because again, all the occupancy rates are so high right now. So I think for most people, so the marketing, I don't see any really cool, great marketing quite yet for co-living. Again, because a lot of them, the occupancy is like not an issue yet. So that's a good tip. And then, so yeah, no, that helps with scale, right? And it shows your community. And I think everybody listening, like, please make sure you guys are doing videos or pictures of like actual community and people hanging out, and, you know, not just like bedroom or kitchen with nobody in it. It's not as exciting, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Perfect.
Awesome.
Well,
Christine, it's
thanks so
amazing
much.
catching up with you.
Yeah,
I've been
same
trying
here.
to do this, so I apologize it's taken us so long to connect, but I'm excited because it's 2020. We got to do this interview. It's the start of the year. It's going to be really, really great. I wish you guys the best luck in terms of what you guys are doing with your business. It's really, really exciting. And I hope we can continue this collaboration. And anytime you're in Portugal, look us up. We'll set you up. You can come stay at our co-living space, or we'll find
Yay.
you to live.
I went to Lisbon for just one night and I was by myself and I didn't know the area. This like 3 years ago. And yeah, so I would love to have a tour guide and to show me how cool it is. And I know it's changed a lot since then. So I will take you up on that, Dave.
Right. Awesome.
Okay, thanks. Have a great day.
All right, Chris. Take care.
Thank you so much for checking out today's episode. If you want to learn more about co-living, you could check out my book on Amazon, The Co-Living Code. And of course, if you're looking for the perfect software to power your co-living concept, check out kindred.io, KNDRD.io. Thanks. And a quick thank you to SPX Agency for all of the graphics, animation, and design on our YouTube channel.